Welcome back to the Social Media Sobriety Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Bermundo. And to my right is a great man, someone who you may or may not know from Texas A&M because he played football and sat out about half of the games. And the reason for that is he was the first Orthodox Jewish football player to play in a Division I program. Please welcome Sam Sauls. Now, Sam, I know about your story, but please tell the audience, maybe about 2 to 3 minutes, how the heck did you walk onto a football team at Texas A&M?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. So let's get into my story. So basically, I trained outside Texas A&M's facility almost every day for 9 months straight, and I showed up to the head coach's radio show and, made sure to introduce myself. And I kept on showing up. And, eventually they let me on. And halfway through the season, and here I am now, afterwards, on a podcast.
You are, and also a little bit about what you do when you're not playing football. I mean, you're here in Lawrence, Kansas, of all places.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, why are you here, and why have you made some of the treks to some of the other colleges?
Yeah, well, I like to share my story because, my story is really not about me. It's more about faith and what you can do in life. And it's important for me to share that with people. So right now I'm in the beautiful state of Lawrence, Kansas. No, I'm just kidding, but I'm in beautiful Lawrence, Kansas. And I just spoke this weekend to the Chabad at KU, which I'm very honored to have done, and shared my story and hopefully inspired some people with it. My story is all about faith, and, how faith will change your life and enable you to do things that most people would think are impossible. So that's me, that's what I do, but I also do go around speaking, do professional development, and do some one-on-one coaching, So, one day at a time, one day bigger, but one day soon.
And please tell us a little bit more about that faith. I mentioned in our speech last night during dinner, but tell me how faith kind of got you into this of trying out for an NFL or for a college team. NFL team we'll get to, but trying out for a college team and then now you're pursuing more of your dreams.
Yeah, so faith was everything. Because faith, first off, is the purpose. To glorify God is obviously the purpose. To bring and more like create something where people can see that you can be observant in the professional world and not have it contradict was, it's the purpose. And so faith has played a big part in that because I knew going forward on my goal was going to be a task, but nonetheless, it was going to be a task that I could complete through faith and that God would help me if I had the right reasoning and I did things for the right purpose. And so thus, when it comes down to things, my motto is faith overall. It conquers everything. I think there's some very strong emotions. Love is one of them, and faith is the other one, where those things can conquer a lot. But faith in God is all you need in order to achieve what most people think are impossible, because God's the one who sets that. Right? God's the one who sets the barriers, and if God sets the barriers, He can make and move them for you.
And I'll tell you what, the impossible, I would think, is to walk on a football program like Texas A&M, doing it as a guy who is observant of Shabbos, meaning you didn't play in almost, I think, more than half of your games, and doing it as someone who is 5'6", and what were you listed as 155?
With no experience playing football?
No experience of football. This guy's football experience was probably playing Madden growing up.
Probably about that, yeah. But
one day, you pretty much said, yeah, I could do that. And
yeah.
I guess I talked to you a little bit about this off camera, but tell me kind of that niche or that will to play football. How did that even start? Why all of a sudden did you have this epiphany to go play D1 football?
I really, truthfully, at the time didn't know. But because the desire to play football kind of came to me when I was younger, around 10, 12. Something around that time where I was I have to play football for some reason, and I don't know what it is, but if I don't play college football, my life won't be complete. And it was weird because I was young and I had that. And, it kind of came back and went and came back and went and came back and went. There was no opportunity for me to play in high school because I went to a Jewish high school that didn't have a team. I couldn't really join a club team because I didn't even know that was an option. And I ended up showing up at Texas A&M, and I went to a game against Kent State. It was my first game I went to, and I was sitting in the front deck. And I remember watching the game live, and everything flooded back to me. I said, you know what, I can do this. And that's really just it. I believed I can do it, And I went out and tried every single thing that I could to make it there. Lots of trial and error, but that's how you succeed.
Yeah, and just the amount of days you went to the gym for a couple hours a day, the days where you were outside of A&M's practice just grinding and grinding. I mean, you kind of drew a following of some of the players who knew a little bit about who you were. Explain a little bit how it was actually getting the call and saying, hey, you're on the Texas A&M football roster.
Yeah, so I mean, I got a text as I was studying for an economics test that I had that was asking me if I could come down to the facility, and then I didn't know what it meant. And then an hour later, I got added to a group chat with all the admins saying, "Hey, Sam, welcome to the team." Blah, blah. So I was like really excited. Obviously, like when you're training for something for 11 months, 9 months on the field and 2 months outside of that field, when you're working for something for that much and it takes up like all the bandwidth when you're literally going to sleep dreaming about practicing, right? Dreaming about catching the football, dreaming about just working at it. And it finally happens, it's a very big deal. And, the first thing is like, obviously I was very excited. And then I remember going to the facility and getting my locker and, and trying on my jersey for the first, not trying on my jersey, but getting measured for my jersey and getting on my equipment. But then I also remember what it was like stepping onto the field the first time and losing the feeling of satisfaction that I had that I had just gotten there. The feeling of satisfaction was there, and then I walk on the field and it's like, now I want to play. And like, now there's more, right? And that's, I think that echoes a weird, not weird, but I think just natural aspect of human nature. There's always a yearning for more, to become more, to create more. And that's why I always tell people to focus on the process, because the process is what forms you.
And last thing I'll say, and then we'll actually get more to the social media side of things, but Sam, you mentioned sometimes the idea of self-doubt and what holds people back from achieving what you do. Talk to me how, one, your faith, and two, the belief in yourself got you to where you are now.
So, first off, if you're a person of faith and you have self-doubt, then you're not a person of faith. And I really truly believe that, because to believe in God and to believe in the infiniteness of God is to believe that God can make you into anything at any moment. And God can put you in front of any eyes and put you in any room and change any heart for you. So that's fundamental. When it comes down to that, I think people have to take that look first. Take that understanding first. In terms of self-doubt is just from the inside. Like, the mind is its own enemy, the person's own enemy. So you have to really be good at getting out of your own way. Because the truth is, it's always a fight within yourself, but you shouldn't doubt yourself. You have no reason to. I think self-doubt is more excuse, right? If I fail, I have an excuse. You need to remove all of those excuses, because when you remove the excuses, you act as someone who has nothing to lose. When you don't care what the social circles say about you, when you don't care what other people say about you, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. When you're on your deathbed, it doesn't matter. All the people who probably were harping on you or chirping on you or being negative are going to be dead anyway, right? And you're going to be laying there with a pile of regret because you listened to other people's opinions and allowed them to help form your opinion of yourself. So the truth is, you cannot doubt yourself. Doubting yourself is doubting God, but doubting yourself is also the one thing that is unique in a person's life that other people can make them do, that those people never have to answer to.
Very, very well said. We'll talk about self-doubt a little bit more, but I also would love to know, right? This is not the end of your football career. What is the next step for Sam Sauls?
Well, thank God I am declaring for the NFL draft. So that's obviously, as of the time this podcast will be posted, that's probably going to be very recent news. But we're continuing to go and see what road God will take me in next.
And shout out Social Media Sobriety. You might have landed the first interview with Sam Sauls after this man declared for the draft, even if the recording is afterward.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Or whatever it's shown. But yes, I got to hear some of this firsthand knowledge today. It was very awesome, very inspiring. And beyond this podcast, you got to give this guy a follow on all of his socials, and really just hear more of his story, because this is just the tip of the iceberg of the story of Sam Sauls. It is truly, truly amazing. Going back now to self-doubt, and this is where I want to tie in social media, right? This podcast is all about social. It's called Social Media Sobriety, but the goal is to maximize people's phone uses, social media uses. Self-doubt on social media, or even doubt from other people, the haters, Sam. When you're on an account like this, how do you block out that noise?
Well, there's two ways you can go about it. You can not look at it, or you can know that it exists. And the truth is, I actually prefer just to not let people know what I'm doing and just pop up and surprise people. That's how I like to work. But in a world where, like, everything is the way it is, things are public, you have to understand that people are going to be negative. And I remember listening to Sylvester Stallone on a podcast talking about this, how, like, the human state is like skepticism. The natural human state is skepticism, and in many parts negativity. In a way, it's like almost priming people for survival. Skepticism kind of helps people not get scammed in a way. So, like, people can become that way, or people just want to be right. They want to feel right. But the other thing is, when you accomplish, when you achieve, when you do things that other people wouldn't think that they can do, you strip away the excuses that people build up in their mind. And I believe stripping away the excuses that people build up in their mind creates resentment towards you, but really it's just resentment towards themselves that they're expressing towards you. And so, like, I'll see it on my accounts where, you have guys who, they'll be like, oh, well, I benched 270 pounds in high school. Like, why is this kid the one playing? Like, that's the wrong way to look at it, right? I'm playing, I'm there because, like, frankly, God put me there. Like, that's why I'm there. I am there with my purpose. Everybody has their own purpose, but when you spend your entire life, like, worrying about why other people are successful and you are not, you're just never going to become successful. From the perspective of the person, receiving the comments, it's like, yeah, it's annoying. But from the perspective of the person who's giving the comment, it's like, why would you do that in the first place? Like, what does it actually, give to you? How does that improve your life? Because the reality is, like, it doesn't. It just, the negativity just kind of like manifests itself, it puts itself into a ball. So, like, in terms of dealing with it, you kind of just have to ignore it and understand that people, most of the time when people are doing that, it's like, it's not the happy people, it's not the successful people, for sure. It's people who are upset at something or upset at life. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that right now because, that's just how things are going. That's how the world is. But, like, people, there's a point where there is some form of agency you got to take,
Definitely. And I just, with social media, everyone loves to find the negative things, whether it's the news that's negative or whether it's the comments or seeing people and you want to bring them down, say your mind. And the question just becomes is like, why? What's the point of that? And I think hearing your perspective of things as someone who's getting all those comments, I think it's very worth, like, hearing that side. I think it's very, very important.
Yeah.
Backtracking now to a little bit more about kind of how you grew up. You told me you always wanted to be a YouTuber. What is what kind of social media do you use on a daily basis? And I guess how long have you been doing it? And just elaborate a little bit more on that.
So, I use almost everything. But the main three for me are YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Reels, and TikTok. And then I go on X, but that's more like just, X just has interesting things, sports, news, all that. So I just use them like that. I always wanted to be a YouTuber when I was a kid, and so I've been making YouTube videos probably 12, no, longer, 14 years. Because I started when I was 9. When I was in 3rd grade, I put out my first YouTube video, and I'm 23 now, so.
What video was that now? What was the content?
It was a review of Plo Koon's, Lego Plo Koon Starfighter from Lego Star Wars.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was, I used to review Lego as a kid. Not very high quality videos, I must admit, but that was a big thing when I was growing up. It was the Lego YouTuber, Lego reviewers, and everyone wants to do that because, you think you get free Lego sets.
So, today I have some monologue bubbles and a Lego set review, Okay, we're gonna be reviewing the Plo Koon fighter jet or whatever it's.
But it all developed from there. That's how I learned how to video edit, over 14 years pretty much.
I think that's hilarious too, because there could be someone who's listening to this that had on their feed your Lego review mixed with my trick shot channel
Right.
way back in the day.
The skateboard no longer.
So that is really, really funny. Now, Sim, kind of tell me your opinion on social media. Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing, maybe mix of both, and why?
So I think social media is a lot like money. I don't think money is inherently good or bad. I think it's a void object. And I think social media is a void object too. It takes the form of whatever energy you give it. So if you want to use money for bad things, it's bad. But if you want to use money for good things, it's obviously very good and has a very big upside. So social media, same type of thing. If you want to use it for bad, it has a huge downside. If you want to use it for good, it has a huge upside. I mean, there's so much listen, as a kid, all those YouTube tutorials, I learned a ton on that. You can learn a ton about history. You can learn just a ton. There's just so much to learn. Like even if you go on TikTok and scroll, listen, my TikTok happens to be a little more educational content, but you can just go and scroll on TikTok and you can, you got to verify your sources, obviously, just because of unfortunately how everything works nowadays. But you can find crazy facts that you never knew about the world or about history, or you could learn things, about the Torah, about faith, about the Bible, all about all that. You can go on social media and you can, so one thing for me when I was training was looking at drills. You can go on TikTok and find tons of great drills or coaches to learn from and become a better athlete. You can find resources on how to help yourself mentally. You can, how help yourself mentally lock in as an athlete better.
All right, Sam, tell me a little bit about this famous to fill in picture. I'll flash it on the screen. But this seemed like kind of your moment, right? It was where people knew a little bit about who you were, how crazy it was to be an Orthodox Jew playing on a league that usually played on Saturdays. What was it like getting that attention, whether it was overnight or whether it was in the first couple weeks?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. So I got a little bit of attention in the beginning, when I first posted my photo, at the LSU game that we won and everyone stormed the field. But then it really blew up over that to fill in pic, for obvious reasons. The crazy thing was, it wasn't even overnight success. It was over a couple hours. So I went to walk through in the morning. And it was really interesting. All my teammates got their media day pictures, and I didn't get mine for 2 weeks after everybody else did. I don't know if they had gotten lost or whatever, or maybe God just wanted the timing to be, because everybody posted media pictures at once. Maybe God wanted me to just have unique timing or something like that. I don't know. But right before I went and took a nap, I posted it as my profile picture on X or Twitter, whatever it was at the time. And I think it was Twitter. And so when I woke up, it was everywhere. I just took a nap for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I woke up and it was just everywhere. And, I'm getting, everybody is sharing it, and people are messaging me, and people want to help me, and maybe this, that, and the other. And it just completely started blowing up. And then obviously I posted on Instagram, and that perpetuated its virality. Then I started kind of blowing up, becoming a public figure to the point where I went. I remember going into practice within the next couple of days, and the running back coach walked up to me, and he's like, "Hey, do you know?" I forgot who he was. I was like, "Not personally." He was like, "Oh, well, he was a GA with me at U of H, and he asked if I knew you." And I was like, "Wow, that's really, really interesting." And yeah, then it just started going everywhere, And obviously, I posted it with the caption because at that time there was the little baby had that song "Go to lunch in the Jewish community."
Go to lunch in the Jewish community.
Yeah. Right. So I posted it with that, and everybody loved that. My teammates loved that. By the way, shout out to my dog Brendan for giving me the caption idea. But everybody loved that. It found some way to relate across everyone. And I found that to be really, really cool.
Yeah, and I guess my next question would just be, how do you not let that get to your head? It is amazing to have you were pretty much just a guy grinding, finding a way to achieve this dream, and then next thing you know, a couple hours after your walkthrough, you find yourself all over the internet. How do you deal with that?
Honestly, I always went into this and went to practice the mentality that I was gonna get, that I was trying not to get cut. Like there was my first season for sure. I definitely like felt as if I was gonna get cut after every practice, and I was doing my best to stick around. That was really it. But I did make fall camp. I actually made, because not everybody makes fall camp. I made fall camp my first season, and that was obviously when it happened. But everything blew up. And, you know, when you blow up, it's not just like everyone starts to see you in a different light. You know, your friends, your coaches, and a lot of it is trying to maintain that down-to-earthness that made, you know, people like me in the first place. But I also kind of like just understood that the position that I was in, God completely granted to me. And that, you know, obviously God could take it away, and that it also wasn't my position to abuse. Like, you know, the famous Spider-Man quote, but like, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, I obviously took that very seriously. And I knew that like everything I had, the position that I was in was on loan from God to use for the right purpose. And I think that definitely helped me, stay grounded, stay grounded a bit for sure. And that's kind of, you know, I think it was definitely that. The acknowledgement of God in my life has certainly allowed me to stay grounded. And but everyone's got to work on things. I think, you know, working on being humble is an important thing. I think it's not something that you're naturally born with necessarily. Like working to eviscerate and eliminate your ego is something that will help you a lot when you go out and just into the world, period. But I don't know, for me, having a relationship with God is always really important. And so getting rid of those things that might block or inhibit my relationship to God are things, you know, that's important for me.
Well, I'll personally vouch for Sam. Like, meeting him, and like, I first saw him at a speech, and I was just so impressed, not only by his story. I didn't know anything about him, just never playing football before, and walking on to A&M, but I didn't know him, I didn't talk to him prior, so I just heard him as a speaker. And when he becomes a speaker, he unlocks this whole new persona of just taking over a room. And then you talk to him and you realize he's just a pretty normal guy. And I think that's like such an awesome character trait to have. My first question, you can kind of keep this a quick answer, but how I guess when people talk to you, do you like that attention of like, oh, this is actually Sam Sauls, or do you enjoy just the human connection?
I like the human connection. I mean, I like talking to people. You know, I'm a social person. I always like talking to people. I like meeting new people. Like, I definitely, especially over the past couple months, I've really realized that like my homeostasis is being social, and when I'm not being social, it's just like very tough for me. So I like meeting people. I like having the human connection, and that's I mean, it's part of the best thing that I get to do. But like, I love meeting people. Especially, you know, when they're good interactions.
All right, now I got an interesting question. This is going to kind of tie in social media and Judaism. So how do you think seeing things on social media, whether it's from your feed, whether it's from people who post, how do you think that can affect someone's faith in Judaism and traditions? Like, are they seeing outside noise? I guess elaborate kind of on that topic.
I remember somebody once said to a friend of mine who's a rabbi, he said, "You guys are all brainwashed." And the rabbi goes, "Everybody's brainwashed. It just matters what choose to wash your brain with."
Oh my God, that's interesting. Okay, elaborate.
Right. And it's just like, yeah, like, you know, people can go on social media and choose to find the lowest common denominator of like things to watch, or like, you know, positions to take or opinions to have. But like, there's just such an upside. You just have to have something called discernment. And unfortunately, not a lot of people have that, but having discernment is important. Just being able to figure out what's real, what's not, what's AI, what's not, and what's legitimate, what's not is important. But, you know, people have an insane amount of confirmation bias. So that's where all this type of stuff comes from. If you want everything in your life to confirm what you believe about yourself or what you believe about people or whatever it is, you'll find stuff to support that, and then that's kind of like who you become. So you have to go into social media as an objective person, right? Looking at things from an objective. You always have to ask, why would they do this? What do they gain from this, right? And who's saying? And then, from that, you can kind of formulate your own opinion. But obviously not everything you see online is going to be real. Most of the stuff you're going to see is probably going to be fake. And it's just your job to figure out whether that's real or not. But you should, I always say use caution when spewing or looking at negativity, because negativity does not come from a positive place. It's impossible, because those things are mutually exclusive. And so when people are negative, and you can really feel it through the energy of someone's videos, like if they are truly being negative, right? If they're a person that is a dream killer or a skeptic or whatever it is, you can feel it. And I choose not to get nor associate nor allow those types of people into my world scope or world of view, right? Because they don't do much except for be skeptics. And some people like to watch that, and people pay them for that. But make sure whoever you listen to is positive. Positivity is that's big. It's very hard to find, but big.
All right. I guess, do you have anything else before we kind of wrap things up? Anything else you want to share before I end you with one final question?
I don't think so.
All right. So, Sam, I guess just kind of tell people, if you're someone who is looking to be a public figure, have some influence, give some people advice on how to start that on social media, and then also to keep that work-life balance on social media.
So, what I would say, you have to be authentic. I really think that's kind of the importance. It's you have to be authentic. Who you are when you go on a podcast, when you're on social media. That's one. The next thing is you have to have a message, purpose for the message, and then you have to have an audience to receive that message. So authenticity, purpose, audience, and reason. Was that right? Purpose. Maybe I missed one of the things in that recap, but you need to have those things when you go into social media. And if you want to spread your message, there are always people who are willing to listen. I find this is true. I find it that there's people want to listen. It seems that though this day and age, people are looking to find information online. They're looking to better themselves. They're looking to make sense of the world. And if you're that voice, you're that piece of reason, then that's great. But you just have to know what you're doing and hone in on that.
And then more of the work-life balance, right? Because you have your phone at your pocket. It's something that everyone has access to, is social media. How can you still have your own life outside of work?
Work-life balance for me has always been kind of a funny thing, because work for me is purpose, especially what I do, because I'm speaking, I'm doing social media, and I get a chance to inspire people, and obviously I'm training for football and everything. So that's my work, but work for me is purpose. So it's kind of hard for me to have that work-life balance, because it's my purpose. It's what I'm aiming for. It's what I'm aiming towards. But in terms of work-life balance, it's a mental state. I think you can learn to have fun when you're doing your work, and be in that state of your brain where you're having fun, and you're not really doing work. I think that's kind of the thing. It's there are moments in time where you have to sit down, you have to negotiate, you have to do your accounting, you have to do this, and you need to be in your work brain. But then there's sometimes it's when you go out and speak and meet new people, that's work, but you have to be in your fun brain for it to be a successful endeavor. So it's really about that. I think it's more about how you think and what you do. And then when you go down and you lay on your pillow, I think it's important to kind of just disconnect from the world. My rabbi back home, he and his wife have a rule that there can be no smartphones in the bedroom, and this goes for their kids as well. No smartphones in the bedroom, and they just have one phone, just for a traditional dial phone for emergencies. That I think only the kids and family have that number. But otherwise, no smartphones in the bedroom. And this is something that I actually do hope to take something like that on. And I think it's genius. I really do. I think you shouldn't allow. I think the bedroom has to be a sacred space of recovery for your mind. And you shouldn't let the outside world in, because now you wake up, now you're thinking about the outside world. You go to bed, you think about the outside world. Stress. That's not what it's supposed to be.
Oh, beautiful. Well said. So, big shout out to Sam. I'm excited. I mean, he's going to the draft. That's got to be some crazy moment. I don't think you would have envisioned yourself maybe 2 years, if not 10 years, when you didn't play football, that this would be a reality. And for any coach listening, this is a guy you want to have in your locker room. One of the most down-to-earth people I know, tremendous speaker, and overall just one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Big shout out to Sam Sauls. Thank you again for being on this podcast. And I wish you the best on your endeavors. Hope to stay in touch. And for all you viewers listening at home, this has been Social Media Sobriety. Tune in next week for more.